kind enough to walk in here, is a Canton class of 1995 member. Man who's been in the Hall of Fame for 22 years, the first ever Seattle Seahawk as well. That group now grows to 4 such enshrined members, with Kenny Easley going in, a teammate of Steve Largent. Good to see you, Steve.
Great to see you, Rich.
22 years?
Yeah, I can't believe it. It's gone by like that.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, it is.
And now there's 4 members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Kenny Easley going in. That must mean something particularly special for you.
It really is. I got to play Kenny's entire career, which unfortunately wasn't long enough. But what a player. He was incredible. I remember the first time I ever saw Kenny Easley. He was out at a practice. We were practicing on our own before training camp started. And I was out there running routes, and I think Jim Zorn or Dave Craig was throwing me passes. And it was Jim Zorn, because we always worked later. And we were out there playing. And he came out, he was a safety, but he came out to cover me. I'm thinking, we just drafted this guy in the first round. I'm thinking, well, what's he doing? He's a safety. He's not a corner. And so I tried running a few routes on him, and I was successful running routes on him, but not that successful. I thought, this guy is going to be good, because he's a safety covering a wide receiver,
Sure.
and he's not supposed to be able to do that. But he was a really special player, and I love the fact that I got to play with him and not against him.
Well, he's the guy that I think isn't getting the most pub out of everybody that's coming in here, with Jason Taylor and LaDainian Tomlinson being first ballot guys, and Terrell Davis and Kurt Warner being former Super Bowl MVPs, and even Morton Anderson gets a little bit of pop because he's a kicker. We just saw, actually, Jan Stenerud is chilling out outside, so he now has company in the kicking department here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Kenny's not a first round Hall of Famer only because his career lasted 7 years. And there's a lot of people that say, well, should a guy play 7 years and get in the Hall of Fame? I don't know. We have 2 other players that are Hall of Famers that played 7 years, but Kenny was just he's one of those special guys that I think really deserved notice, and he got it this year finally. But there's no question in my mind, if Kenny would have played 10, 12 years, he would have been a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Now, taking a look at your career, Steve, you were a 4th round selection, not by the Seattle Seahawks, but the Houston Oilers took you out of college, out of Tulsa. Well, how did you get to Seattle?
Well, it's an interesting question.
Okay.
Bum Phillips was in his second year coaching the Houston Oilers, and they had no first round draft choice and no third round draft choice. So in the second round, they drafted Mike Barber, the tight end, who played for a number of years for Houston Oilers, good tight end. And in the 4th round, they drafted me. So I was the second pick, even though I was in the 4th round. And so I thought, man, I for sure am going to make the Oilers because I'm their second pick, right? And I go into camp, and they've gotten just a lot of good receivers, veteran receivers from other teams that I'm competing against. And I never really learned the system, never really understood what the coach wanted me to do. And so when you do that, and the cornerbacks at that time could be real aggressive with you. There was no 5-yard rule or anything like that. And it was intimidating to me. So I got a second chance. They actually, Bum Phillips called me into his locker and said, Steve, we're going to let you go, give you a chance with somebody else. Thanks, but no thanks. And so they waived me. They actually waived me and then recalled me and traded me to the highest bidder, which happened to be the Seattle Seahawks. And kind of my ace in the hole was the fact that Jerry Rome had been my offensive coordinator at the University of Tulsa for the past 3 years and had just become the receivers and quarterbacks coach in Seattle. And more importantly, he had implemented our passing game in the Seahawks playbook. So when they said, split right 76, I knew exactly where to go and what to do. Even though I hadn't been in their training camp, I'd run those plays for 3 years in college. So it was a real advantage for me and a boost in my confidence. And Jerry was, of course, very encouraging for me and to me. And that just gave me a shot.
Steve Largent here on the Rich Eisen Show. And now, obviously, everybody knows about the passionate fan base that the Seattle Seahawks have and travel with, and the 12s, et cetera, et cetera. What was it like, though, to be there, ground zero, day one of the Seattle Seahawks franchise? It started up.
I would tell you the fans have always been that way. They have really acted more like a college fan base than a pro fan base, where they just love the team, win, lose, or draw. And we lost a lot in the early years. But
the Kingdom. Right?
In the Kingdom. And talk about loud. I would rival the noise in the Kingdome versus the stadium they have now with anybody because they were.
That's saying a lot.
It was really loud in that Kingdome because the noise didn't have anywhere to go. So it was very encouraging, and they were very enthusiastic. And I'm really glad now that they've had a chance to go to a couple of Super Bowls, 3 Super Bowls, and win once. And it's a fan base that deserves that.
What do you think about what is going on with the Seahawks? They just keep on winning, and they keep on keeping their guys. They just re-signed Cam Chancellor now,
Yep.
And they've got the core group, and then they have these young up and comers because Pete Carroll just says that I don't care who you are, what your pedigree is, if you can play, you can get out there. But then there's the whole Russell Wilson and Richard Sherman. Apparently, that there's a little bit of friction. Richard says it's just brothers who argue. But what do you think of this, Steve Largent?
Well, number one, I think that Pete Carroll does a fantastic job of coaching his team, any team. He's a good coach. He makes those guys work, and so when they get to a game, it's easy. And I'm really impressed with his demeanor with the team and the way they respond to it. And so that they couldn't get a better coach than Pete Carroll. The team, I think this is going to be a real critical year for them because of 2 reasons. One, they've got an offensive line that's a huge question mark and was a question mark last year and proved to be a question mark throughout the season. And this year, I don't know that they're any better, but they're going to have to prove themselves. I think that would be a real issue for the team. The second issue is running back. They really have not gotten another Marshawn Lynch. And there's not another Marshawn Lynch, but they haven't got anybody comparable to him, in my opinion. So there's got to be somebody that jumps out of the pack and plays running back for him because you just can't put all that pressure on Russell Wilson and the receivers that he has to have no running game. And that's Pete Carroll's meat and potatoes is have a strong running game and a great defense, and that's how they've won in the past.
Steve Largent, Pro Football Hall of Famer, fresh out of the Nitschke Luncheon here on the Rich Eisen Show. All right, make me a fly on that wall. What was it like in that room today?
It really is a fun time because it's the only time that we come to Canton, to the Hall of Fame, and we get together, and it's just the players in the hall. There's nobody on the outside in there, and so it's really fun to just joke around with the guys and hear about their life and talk about their families and joke around with each other, and then welcome the new class of 2017.
Well, how does that get done? Is there a program?
There's a program.
Okay.
Yeah. Willie Lanier is kind of the MC this year. He said this is his last year. I don't know if it will be or not.
Well, because that used to be Deacon's role, right?
It was, yeah.
And Nitschke's role before it.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's Willie Lanier now.
Willie Lanier, yeah. He's been doing it for the last 5 or 6, 7, 8 years. So, but it's really informal. And there's a lot of jokes, a lot of laughing, and some sincere times, too, when guys are talking about their careers and what it means to them to be in the Hall of Fame and welcoming the guys in from this year's class and just sharing stories, sharing your life.
So you raise your hand and stand up?
Yeah.
I mean, how's that work?
Yeah, that's they'll have somebody with a microphone. In this case, it was Curtis Martin, and if you raised your hand, he'd come over and give you the mic and let you share your story. And sometimes it's just to congratulate the guys that on the class that came in this year. Sometimes it's to relate a story that happened to them when they were inducted and how they felt and how special it is. But you can't come out of that meeting, out of that time with those Hall of Famers, those that are in there and have been in there for 22 years like myself, or those that are just being inducted, and walk away and not really understand how special this place is to these guys.
And does somebody stand up and give them, because the way it's been described to me in the past, give a message of don't screw this up?
Well, there used to be a message like that. There definitely was when I was inducted.
What do you mean?
And there was a message about don't screw it up with your life somewhere else and reflect badly on the Hall of Fame. But there's also a message about, hey, don't talk for half an hour either. Because it's going to be hot out there. We don't want to be sitting.
Oh, you mean for Saturday?
Exactly. Yeah, they get a little message on. If you go too long, they don't want to sit around forever.
Did that happen today too?
It did not. I was surprised. I was surprised that there was no message like that, especially I think we got 8 inductees this year, so it could be a long night.
It could, especially since Favre spoke for 36 minutes last year, too.
Oh, man. That's you'll see a lot of guys getting up and getting something to drink in the middle of that talk.
So, I mean, who's going to take over Willie Lanier's role next year?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a question that hasn't been answered yet. I think that's something that we have to consider. I don't know that we get to vote on it. I would assume that we would.
Yeah.
But that question has to be answered here pretty soon.
I bet Irvin would want to do that. I bet Michael Irvin
and I bet you people won't let him.
Why is that?
He's not very brief.
He's going to do all the talking.
So you've got to have a sense of timing.
Yes.
Timeliness.
Yep.
Otherwise, that disqualifies
the right propriety to the institution and what it's about.
So his
guys in the room.
I mean, you've been in the House of Representatives, so you understand if it's a non-starter on the floor, it can't be even brought to a vote.
Yeah,
what
exactly.
You're saying.
Exactly.
That's what you're saying is Irvin's.
I think he's a non-starter. I wouldn't say that about everybody. In fact, there's many guys that would not be. I wouldn't cross off the list so quickly, but I think I can cross him off pretty safely.
Steve, look, I think some others are waiting for you to head back to your hotel. So as the host of tonight's Jacket Dinner, I will keep it brief. Okay, I will not speak very long because I understand that it's not about me; it's about the Jackets. And it's also about getting out and getting to Jerry Jones's party or something like that. So
it's a fun evening. You'll enjoy it.
I'm looking forward to it. Steve, good to see you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Anytime. That's Steve Largent, one of the all-time great receivers and certainly Seattle Seahawks here live in Canton, Ohio here on the Rich Eisen Show. Good to see you, Steve. You got it. Absolutely. Steve Largent here.
The Rich Eisen Show. Weekdays at noon Eastern on radio stations across the country and audience.
If you like that video, be sure to download our app, and I'll be sure to move Week 6 games to Saturday for that wedding you have to go to.